If there's one thing that you need to know about me, it is that I am a zooms guy. No primes. I own one set of primes. They're Zeiss Jennas because they're the best primes I think ever made. That's an overstatement, but they are sick. So what you need to know is that I love zooms. It's just that a lot of my shoots are very, very fast paced. I need to get the shot, then get the next shot, then get the next shot, all in a matter of seconds, right? When I was shooting on Komodo, the Pictors were my favorite lenses ever. They had a little bit of character. They were clean enough to work in pretty much any scenario, and they let me move really fast. However, now I shoot on a Raptor. That's my A cam, that's my main thing. That's 90% of the time what I'm shooting on. So I need something that's gonna cover VistaVision. I still wanna shoot 8K full sensor. I still wanna be able to shoot high frame rates, but I also wanna be able to shoot in a quick manner where I can get my wide and my tight in rapid succession. So right now we're shooting on the Raptor and the Arcanas, which are super cool. We're shooting vertiscope, but you have to do lens swaps. Even setting up this shot, I was like, oh, maybe it's a 45. Oh, no, it's a little too tight. Let me go back to the 32. Oh, okay. I don't like to go back and forth. I like to sit there, put the camera where I like it, get the shot and go, what are 3 different shots here? So I got my hands on the new DZO Arles Zoom for about 1 day. This is a T2.6, 25 to 75, covering VistaVision, cinema zoom. Same quality you would expect from the other DZO lenses like the Pictors, the Katas, the Tango. Very nice mechanics. They feel really good. A nice focus throw, a nice weight, but enough that you can still get around to switch your focus quickly, which I feel like a lot of old lenses you don't get to do. They're like really stiff or they're way too loose, or God forbid we talk about the Canon RF lens focus rings that just don't make any sense. All that to say, I got my hands on the 25 to 75. I did not get my hands on the more telephoto lens, but I'm hoping to in the near future. So let me give you my thoughts. I had a day and a half with it. I shot a few clips with my girlfriend that you'll see. I shot a few clips out in nature, which I love testing lenses out in nature because you get to see all the bokeh really on full display with the leaves. So let me tell you a little bit about the lens and we'll get into some examples. So as I said, this lens is a 25 to 75, which is a great range. T2.6, no difference between that and T2.8. I'm not completely sure why they went 2.6, but hey, if it was just marketing, we're here for it. So it's 2.8. It's actually not very heavy. I don't have the exact measurements. I should have put it on a scale while I had it. But what I'll say is that it is not as long as a Fujinon 19 to 90, and it is not as heavy as something as like the Angenieux Easies. So actually, and it's not even as long as the Easies. So you get to have kind of a compact package. Like when I was running it on my Raptor, it felt very easily manageable handheld. I also didn't even run it with a support. I went locking RF mount on the Raptor to the Kippertie Mini LC adapter, whatever, the RF to PL adapter, and then with the zoom, and it felt rock solid. So I feel really comfortable running it with no lens support, unless I'm doing something like an arm car shoot where there's going to be a lot of impact. Then I would definitely put a lens support on it. But what I really liked is it was manageable and it wasn't too heavy. I used it all day handheld without any problem. All that to say, this lens I think will be a workhorse for a lot of people because of its size, its image quality, and its ease of use, right? We're all looking for things to go faster. How can we complete shoots without stress? And I think this lens is going to do that for a lot of people because it keeps a lot of the beauty and a lot of the character from the Arles primes, which I actually really do like. So the image we're looking at right now was shot at 25 mil. This was shot between a 2.8 and a 4. I don't remember exactly where it was shot, but what I think this shows is that there's a lot of separation even on the wide end of this lens. Now that's partially due to its image coverage and the sensor size of the Raptor, but I do think that this lens does the intangible thing that a lot of, like, the first time you put signature primes on a camera and you go, oh yeah, these look better, these look different, why is there so much separation? I think this lens does a similar thing where there's that little bit of intangible separation that you see between your subject and your background, even at 6 feet of focus distance on the wide end of your lens, which I think is really special. What I'll also say about this is I noticed a lot of difference between T2.8 and T4 and T5.6, and I have some examples that I'll show you of that. But I like that you can get a few different looks out of this lens. When you're wide open, it's pretty funky, especially when we punch into these wider frames that I'll show you in a second. By the time you get to 5.6, it's nicely cleaned up. The bokeh is more regular and it's nice. Whereas at 2.8, it's a little bit more dreamy. The edges are pretty soft. The bokeh is interesting. I actually don't even know how to describe it. I want to throw up this image that was shot at 75 mil. And let's look at the background of that, because this is the bokeh that you're getting wide open on the tight end of this lens, which is really interesting. So as we're looking at this shot, I'm looking at how the tree and the leaves are responding to the light coming through them in the lens. It's really interesting. You also, I feel a little bit of swirliness in the background. I don't know how they do this. I don't know the science behind that, but I really like that it has a little bit of swirl. It's just so different from a standard zoom. And I feel like we're getting a lot more character out of this zoom than we have in the past, especially in this price range. I want to go ahead and just roll a few example clips of this lens with my beautiful girlfriend, April, to show you what this looks like. This is a shot between 2.8 and 4, shot between 25 and 75. So this should give you a nice little idea of what the lens looks like. The last characteristic I want to talk about is flaring. I really couldn't get this lens to flare. This took me some time to actually get a shot that I could get to flare, even with a decently hard source. So what I found is that it's really controlled. It does not wash out at all. So it's not going to be comparable to your vintage lenses that you like to do a full lens wipe and lose your contrast. This lens is not going to do that. It's very controlled, and I love that because I don't want to lose a shot because of lens being uncontrolled and it's flaring and its coatings. So I actually really like that. Do I wish that it had a little bit more of a, like an iris flare? I do, but I really like that it doesn't wash out. So I'm kind of willing to trade that. Like for instance, the Pictors had really incredible flares that came across the lens, and they would wash out a little bit, but not too much. But I'm happy enough with the rest of the image quality of the lens to forego some of my flares. So we'll kind of have to see as this lens comes out what flares are created. Now I want to jump into a demo on how this lens performs at different focal lengths, t-stops, and focus distances. I think this is really important to know what the lens looks like at 50 mil in the middle of the focus range at t5.6. This is where you're going to find yourself shooting a lot. So it's important to see those versus just here's wide open at 75 at 2 feet of focus. So one thing I want to touch on is minimum focus distance. This is a part of the lens that I was not as excited about as the rest of the lens. I think it's a little under 2 feet. At 25, it's not particularly impressive for macro. However, when you punch into 75, that minimum focus distance stays the same. So you're actually getting a pretty interesting macro shot as you get to the longer part of this lens, which I'm totally okay with. If that's how the optics were designed so that I can get these other beautiful images, then I'm completely happy to sacrifice a little bit of minimum focus distance, and you can always compensate by punching in. I did not get to shim my lens because of the limited time I had with it, but it did seem rather parfocal, definitely close enough. With a little bit of shimming, it could be perfect. So I'm also really excited about that. DZO does a good job of doing that. The last thing I'll say is I really love the optics of this lens. It is beautiful, and I think that this will probably end up cemented onto the front of my Raptor because it has some character, but it also has a lot of functionality. This reminds me of the DZO Tango 18-90. I spent about a month with that lens and absolutely loved it. The directors I was working with loved it because at 18, it was funky, especially wide open. You got some crazy stuff. So I really like that aspect of this lens, that you can clean it up, that you can make it a little funkier, that you can have some fun with it, and in general, create beautiful images out of a great lens that adds a lot of functionality to your production. So that's the takeaway for me. The flare control is incredible. The zoom range is incredible. The iris range, I mean T6, whatever, T8, doesn't matter, but it is nice to have a zoom that'll go wide open and cover VistaVision without any vignette. So those are my closing thoughts. I cannot wait to get my hands on this lens for real and for forever. As soon as that pre-order opens, you know, I'll be putting my name down to get these. Let me know if you guys have any questions about these lenses. I'm happy to answer them. Thanks for watching. See you later. All right, here we go. Went all over my shirt. Oh, you can't see that. It's still attached. Oh my God, my brain is mush. So here are my closing thoughts.